This episode of Craze is brought to you by.
Welcome to the third installment of my all-ages, family-friendly comedy sci-fi series. For months I've been working tirelessly, putting together not one, not two, but three amazing stories all centered around this one amazing character, Duty, from There's an Alien in My Toilet. And I wanted to say thank you to all of the fans who supported us at the conventions and also on the Kickstarter helping to make it so successful. Now we're back with book 3. And as always, we have amazing covers and an amazing story where Duty finally gets into a house and there are humans involved and a chihuahua named Herman. And just in time for Halloween, I bring you Duty's Monsters on Planet Cthulhu. You're not going to want to miss this one. It's one wild ride. But I also have something for the little ones. This is an activity book, a story book filled with adventures. And at the end, your child can write their own story and create their own characters. So thank you for sticking around for the first 2 issues, and I hope you enjoyed this next series of books that I bring you. Your support, your investment means the world to me, and I can't do it without you. Have a great day. Enjoy reading. What's up, everybody? This is your host with the most, Sam the Crazy Man Vera, and tonight we have a very special guest. We have Sarah Cooke coming to talk to us about No Spells Last Forever, #1. Currently on Kickstarter. Sign up on Kickstarter today. The link is in the chat. George will be joining us on our next episode. So with that, without further ado, let's just get it.
We are the only show for independents all around, giving you a platform to spread your word all over town. Cast the Craze is the place to promote to your fans with the dream of Medina and Sam the Crazy Man. Subscribe to our show and never miss an episode. It's time to get your mans, listen to us on the go. Updated every week, we never miss a day. Join the squad, come on in. It's time to catch the Craze. If you are an independent, catch the Craze. Making moves on your own, catch the Craze. On your grind in the streets, catch the Craze. Join the movement, catch the Craze.
Yeah, George, we did it again. Come on now. You know you want to do it. Catch the Craze. Welcome to Catch the Craze podcast. I am your host with the most, Sam the Crazy Man Vera, and I am with Duty. What's up, everybody? What's up? What's up?
Yay!
So tonight we have Sarah. Remember that song? That song was legit. Oh, anyway, what's up? This made comics into his house.
Yay!
So we're gonna be talking about her campaign that's coming up. It's getting ready to launch soon. No Spells Last Forever, #1, a noir urban fantasy comic about a magic user who makes a deal with the devil for a second chance at life. Don't do it. Don't make a deal with the devil. Hell no. To the no, hell to the no. Anyway, never make a deal with the devil. No, it never comes out the right way. I'm just saying. The devil has tricks upon tricks upon tricks, silly rabbit. So, so we're going to be talking to her soon. But in the meantime, we'll be talking to her in about 10 minutes. But in the meantime, have you backed This Alien in My Toilet? Why haven't you? I mean, there's 3 books. There's 3. Well, it's issue 3, I Chihuahua, right here. Hold on. I got it right here for you. And there's 3 covers for I Chihuahua. 3 fantastic covers. So you have cover A and cover B that you can choose from on the campaign. I mean, it's ready to go. It's printed. The proofs are done. You're not going to be waiting. As soon as the campaign's over, it's shipping. And then you have the variant cover to The Shining. Here's Johnny. Here's Duty. This is available as well on the campaign. But I worked hard on the second story. The first time in over a decade that I worked on an entire book by myself. I didn't have George letter it. I didn't pay for a colorist. I didn't have cover artists. I did it all myself. And it's Duty's Monsters on Planet Cthulhu. And it's right here. It's right here. And this bad boy is ready to go. It's full colors. The 24-page story is part 1 of 3. It's part 1 of 3. And there's 3 covers to this. So you can get it single, just like this with this cover, or you can see there's a hand there. That's because there's a left and a right. So you can get all 3 covers. I think you can get the 3. I forgot how much it was. But if you go to the Kickstarter right now, you'll see you got Duty's Monsters on Planet Cthulhu. And then for you moms and dads and guardians who have children, there's Duty's Adventures. And it's a rematch to Duty's Adventures. And every page turn, there's trivia questions for the kids. So they read the story. The left-hand side, there's questions that they talk about with the parent or the guardian, and they get to answer it. And then the last 6 pages at the end, they can write their own ending, and they can draw their own characters. It's very interactive, great for 4-year-olds. You should pick it up. It is fantastic. But here's the PS that is don't. It's the Custom Sketchbook. Now, pick up the Custom Sketchbook, and you'll get a custom sketch. Now, if you have a little one that you're giving this to, there's a 50-page sketchbook that you can fill up with all your art. And it's a great for Duty fans. But if you pick this up, this in first page, you send me a headshot of whoever kid you're giving it to, and I will sketch the kid with Duty in the book on the first page, having fun together. What a deal. And if you pledge during this stream and the one next right after this, if you pledge during these next 2 streams, not live while I'm on the show, I'm throwing in a bookmark, Duty Monsters bookmark, for free, throwing it inside your bag. So all you have to do is just pledge a physical tier. If you do a digital tier, you'll get a digital copy. So I'm excited about this. I've been working on it. Issue 1 and 2 was funded quickly. Issue 3, boy, am I scared. We haven't been funded, and that's a first for this campaign, for this project, for Duty. And so I need your help. I know you have nephews and nieces. I know you have people who like to laugh. Not everybody needs a nudie comic. Yeah, I know you want to laugh. So come on down and get yourself There's an Alien in My Toilet. So I have a packed week. Tonight, right after this show, we have Sean Fry from Biff Bam Boom Comics at 8 o'clock. Tomorrow, I have Ray Felix at 7 o'clock. And then at 8 o'clock, I'm joining my boy, J.D. Rosario, for his Kickstarter launch party. He asked the Craze to join, and you know what we do. We support the indie community, so I couldn't say no to my boy. He's like, I'm just going to be there in the stream with him, helping, cheering him on, and hopefully you guys come along for the ride. It's going to be a big party. He's a good guy. He's been doing this for a long time, and all you have to do is go, hooty hoo, and the Craze comes running. We come running. We got you. That's how we do it. So I'm excited about that. And shout out. I want to get some shout outs. I put out a last minute call. I reached out to a few podcasters, and the ones who made accommodations for me to get on the show. Thank you, Pops Van Zant. Thank you, Nerds in the Round, Sebastian Bonet. Thank you, JD Calderon. Who else? Thank you, Sarah. Not Sarah. Thank you, Laurie Calcaterras. That's what it is. I just saw Sarah pop up, and I was like, thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Laurie Calcaterra, for getting me on her show last minute. So for all you guys who found a way to squeeze me in to promote my campaign, I truly appreciate it. It's been crazy. I was trying to avoid doing podcasts this time around, considering I'm a podcaster, because I did over 30 the first campaign, and then I did like 20 on the second campaign, and it burned me out. I was burning both ends as a candle, and on top of running Cassie Craze, on top of drawing and working on my books, and and all that other stuff. So I just didn't want to have to do it again. But considering that it's a week already into the game and we haven't been funded, and that's the first for There's an Alien in My Toilet, I don't know what happened. I don't know if everybody got abducted. I don't know if the UFOs came. I don't know if his father from Uranus came down and just took everybody and just like, I'm done with you. So I have to go out there and shout from the top of the hilltops and say, just like, duty's coming. So I just want to make sure you guys know that. So yeah, so join us again after this. We got Biff Bam Boom Comics tomorrow. We got Ray Felix. We're going to be talking about what happened with his campaign that he launched. He didn't get funded, but we're going to talk about what's going to happen in the future with his brand and his property. And you'll probably see me on screen walking through some features on Kickstarter. So if you're new to Kickstarter, you don't know how to format it, I will be doing it live tomorrow night with Ray Felix. So you can check that out. That's going to be fun. And then join me Yeah, buddy. Yeah, I know it's all over the place. It's thank you. I appreciate that. It's I won't compromise my property's integrity. My whole focus is all ages. And I think what happens is people hear all ages as a trigger word for corny, right? And so I think people say, oh, that's corny. I'm too cool for that. So but you put a half naked woman on the cover and everyone comes flocking. And so that's just not me. Even when I had Forbidden the fantasy series, I could have done that. I didn't do it. And because that's not what I'm selling. I'm selling the story. I'm not selling a photo. And with Duty, it's about heart, it's about stories, about the whole family coming together. It's interactive, it's educational, it's funny. It's for and then I just got my squad just busted right at the door. I don't care how many times and how many things I put to block them from coming up. They will find a way. Yeah, I see you. I see you. I see you. But yeah. So join us tomorrow night as well at 8 o'clock on JD Rosario's. I don't know what the name of his podcast is, but he's going live. He invited the Craze to support him for his live Kickstarter launch party. We will be there. He said there's going to be some free food. So even though I can't have any from, virtually, but if Mark Zuckerberg has anything to do with it, we probably will one day. But yeah, that's going to be awesome. So, and then join us tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning, we're going to be continuing to come. I mean, not tomorrow. Tomorrow is Thursday. Oh, God, jeez. The days go by fast. So tomorrow morning on the Morning Brew with the Crazy Crew, where George and I are going to be talking about a manga artist's schedule versus a traditional comic artist schedule. And it's extreme. If you watch the Crazy 10 or less, I compared their schedule to my schedule. They don't sleep and they don't have fun. And so it's real, so I mean, I salute those guys and girls, but won't catch me doing that. But salute to them. That's why they produce so many books, and that's why their books are affordable. You get a book this big and it's affordable compared to our graphic novels, which are just thin and they're more expensive, right? That's because they're putting out more content fast so they can do it. These mangakas are putting out a book a week. It's crazy. It's crazy. I don't know how to do it. It's, I'm like, yeah, and it's mangaka, and there's not a duty joke. That's what it's called. That's what they're called. I'm just saying. So don't come at me. Just saying. So with that said, we're gonna bring our guest in the room again. George won't be with us. He's running late, so he'll probably pop in sometime around this one, if not the 8 o'clock show. But there are so many reasons to subscribe to Catch the Craze podcast and support the independent community. But I'm gonna let our previous guest tell you.
It's Monty Moore. I'm a 30-year comics veteran in comics, games, and movies, and you've been watching one of my absolute favorite podcasts, Catch the Craze.
You are watching Catch the Craze.
What am I listening to?
And you're listening to Catch the Craze.
Where are all the indies at? A Catch the Craze podcast.
What are you watching?
I'm watching Catch the Craze.
What are you going to do?
Subscribe now to Catch the Craze, the #1 show online for independent.
Have you subscribed to?
If you are an independent, catch the craze. Making moves on your own, catch the craze. On your grind in the streets, catch the craze. Join the movement, catch the craze.
Welcome to the show. Welcome back.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Oh, anytime. So for anybody who's watching this and don't know who you are, why don't you give us a brief rundown on who you are and what you do?
So I am a comics writer. I'm working on a series right now called No Spell Lasts Forever, which is the new title. It had a different title when I was here back in January. But yeah, I'm a writer. I've got a couple short stories that I've been working on for anthologies. I'm also a blogger. I've done some blogging for Marvel and for DC and Women Write About Comics and some other places. And yeah, that's mostly what I do.
That's fantastic. You're wearing a lot of hats.
Yeah.
So before we talk about No Spell Lasts Forever, which is an amazing title, let's just again give everybody a rundown on, like, as a child, what was the first book that you remember reading, and what was it about that book that inspired you?
The first, the first book that I remember really reading and getting really into as a kid, like on my own, I think was the Wrinkle in Time series.
Mm.
And I loved those books. I think it was obviously like the fantasy element, but the kind of idea that this girl who is just in this normal world could then be swept up into all of this fantasy drama.
Right.
That's the first one and before that I read things that I remember having like my parents read to me, Little Women and some others. But I think the first one that really got me hooked on fantasy and fandom type stuff was Wrinkle in Time.
Right. So what was the first actual attempt you made to actually writing your own story?
I remember writing stories even in grade school. I have a Substack called Killer Tater Tots, and it's named after a story that I wrote in, I think it was first or second grade, about tater tots coming to life and taking over my school. And I still have memories of writing this story. And that's the earliest that I think I can remember. Yeah,
That's
first or
fascinating.
second grade.
Yeah, I don't know anyone who doesn't love tater tots.
Right?
It was like one of those. I mean, for me, it was the grilled cheese and the tater tots that were just like
It's a good combination.
Oh, what? I mean, I would trade just to get, because I don't know if in your elementary school the grilled cheese used to come like in a plastic, and like steamed in like the plastic wrapping, and you open it up and the steam comes out, and it's like. So you, that was your first moment, but when did you realize that, hey, I want to make a go at this?
Yeah, I first started writing some short stories and poetry in high school, and I submitted, middle school, I guess it was. I submitted a short story to a kids' lit journal in middle school, and it got published. And then I started writing more short stories and poetry in high school and college. And I think I really kind of through college ended up sort of veering more towards journalistic writing and blogging. And then kind of came back around eventually to more creative writing later on when I came back and did my MFA in creative writing. And I did a poetry concentration there. And then it was little bit after that, I wrote a web series with a friend of mine from grad school. It's a sci-fi comedy web series. It's called My Human Experience.
Oh, that.
And that was kind of, I think, my first more professional stab at fiction writing. And that was the thing that really kind of got me hooked on fiction writing. And I knew that if I was going to be writing fiction, I wanted to do comics because I love them so much.
Right. So I mean, you said a lot, and there's a lot of things that I want to know. It's some things that very fascinating, because you tried your hand on a lot of different forms of writing. What was it about poetry that you enjoyed, and what was the influence that said, you know what, I want to try my hand at poetry?
I think what I like about writing poetry is just how much it relies on language, and obviously any kind of writing does, but I think poetry, it's so specific because it's the way the words look on the page and the way they sound together. And it feels almost like a puzzle. Like, how can you take all of these different aspects of language and put them together into something that works? And just using words in that way was always really interesting to me. And I think I've just always really enjoyed reading it, even back to like when I was in high school. Our school had a poetry journal that I was a part of. I just always really enjoyed reading it too. So it kind of, I think at that point was the natural thing for me to get into first.
Of all the poems you've written, is there anyone that stands out to you that's your favorite?
Oh, that's hard. I think probably some of the ones that I wrote towards the end of grad school. I remember writing one about I had gone back and forth across the country, moving multiple times in like the span of just a few years. And I had a poem about kind of that experience and seeing the different seasons in these different places and what that was like. And that one was fun to write. And I think it's probably still one of my favorites.
That's fascinating. It's before I jump into the next question, what is it about Spock that fascinates you?
Oh, Spock. He's probably, I'm a big Trekkie. I've always been a huge Trekkie. And he's maybe my favorite Star Trek character. That's hard to say, though. It's probably either him or Janeway or Picard. See, I can't even decide. But I think Spock in particular is interesting because he's always a little bit of an outsider, but still has this like confidence and this self-assuredness. And everyone's always making jokes about him being a Vulcan and his logic and his pointy ears, but he still has this sort of confidence about him.
That's fascinating. That's awesome. Yeah, it's funny. It's either one or the other. I enjoy both. I enjoy Star Wars. I enjoy Star Trek.
I like Star Wars.
Battlestar Galactica, all that
Yeah.
stuff. I just think science fiction is just fascinating form of storytelling.
Yeah, same.
So you wrote Tater Tots, you wrote poetry, you wrote a short story with a friend, a classmate or friend. Whose idea was it? And what was the premise of the project you guys wrote together?
Oh yeah. So my human experience, and it's she and I had wanted to do something. We were good friends. We were roommates in school and are still really good friends. And we wanted to do something together, but we weren't really sure what. And we were doing a little YouTube show for a while, actually, and writing just some kind of little sketches for the show that we would do. And we really enjoyed that and kind of wanted to do something more. So we that was how we got the idea for the web series. And we kind of, I think, came up with the premise together. It's about an alien who comes to Earth and is a student and is trying to figure out what it's like to be human. So she's a little bit of a fish out of water. And I think we kind of played around with some different ideas, but came to that idea pretty much together.
And how long did it run for?
We are still in the process. We've got the first pilot episode produced, actually. It's been screening over the last year and a half. It's been screening at some festivals, and we're hoping to eventually go on and do a campaign and get more of the episodes produced.
Oh, that's fascinating. That's awesome. Is it something that people can actually see, or is it like a website, or is it just at festivals?
It will be. It's at festivals now, but because of some of the terms of some of the festivals, we're not able to make it public until it's screened at those places. But eventually, it'll be public. So
you said you produced it. So what did that entail? What was the work involved behind that?
Yeah, that was a big learning experience. She was more into film. Since we had been into school, or since we had been in school together, she kind of went on and did more screenwriting and got more into the film side of things. So she had more, her name is Amy Danzero. She had more experience with that than I did. But she hadn't really produced either. She had, that was her first production credit too. And so it was a lot of learning, how do we choose a director? How do we contact directors? And we knew someone who was a producer who ended up being our producer on the show. So she was really helpful for us too. She had a lot of resources and contacts, but it was a lot of that and a lot of kind of figuring out, okay, what are we looking for when we're looking for actors, and just figuring out the whole thing. And we were shooting it during COVID, which made it, of course, even more complicated. And I'm in Ohio, and so I couldn't be there for the actual filming, which was really sad for me. But hopefully future episodes, I'll be able to be there. But that was, we found a big warehouse in LA where people do shoots a lot, and kind of built some sets and found people to build the sets for us. And it looked awesome. But it was a big learning experience for sure. Wow. A lot of fun.
Right. So that's fascinating for any, aspiring filmmakers out there. Did you have to go out there and raise capital? Was it just people just volunteering their time? How did you work around that?
Yeah, we did an Indiegogo campaign, actually, and our producer Kay Tuxford, is her name. She's done tons of crowdfunding, so having her help us out with that the first time around was a huge help. But we did, we went out and we crowdfunded it and made enough to get that episode produced.
That is fascinating. Congratulations. Wow. What an undertaking, especially for first time out. That's awesome. That's awesome. So I'm assuming because she was studying to be a filmmaker, this was her idea to convert it into film?
It was more her idea to do film versus a comic or something.
Right. So now, I mean, so who wrote the screenplay?
We did together.
So what was that like for you? I mean, what was the learning curve there? Because it's very different from writing a novel, prose, or a comic book, or poetry.
Yeah, it's really different. I had taken a couple screenwriting classes in college, so I knew a little bit, but they were really just electives. It wasn't something that I did for like a sustained period of time during school or anything like that. And most of what I had written at that point was either prose or poetry, and it was really different. And I'm glad I had Amy to work with, because she had more experience at that time just with the format. And but I liked writing in that format a lot. I think it was good practice for writing comic scripts, which are really different in a lot of ways, but have some similarities being visual storytelling mediums. But it was really different from anything I'd written before, but I really enjoyed kind of learning how to do it.
Yeah, the way I taught myself was I bought the actual scripts for my favorite films, or the screenplays for my favorite films, or even some sitcoms, and I just studied the beats, and I just like, all right, the tempo and when they transition and all that stuff, and then that's how I applied it to what I did. That's fascinating. So, which is your favorite sandbox to play in?
I think it's comics. At this point, it's comics.
Right. So what is it about comics that excites you?
I feel like it's just such a cool medium. I feel like it has some things in common with film and TV, but there's stuff that film and TV can do that comics can't do, but there's also stuff that comics can do that film and TV can't. And I've often thought too that it really kind of has a lot in common with poetry.
Right.
Because I think poetry, when you're writing a poem, it's a snapshot of an experience, kind of. And I think that comics are kind of the same, because you have to be so selective with what shots you're putting in each panel. It's not like a movie where it's ongoing. And so that kind of like grabbing these snapshots and putting them together, to me at least, feels a lot like what you do when you're writing a poem.
Right.
And I really enjoy that about them. I think they're so much fun to read.
So was No Spell your favorite, your first comic that you've written, or did you try your hand at something before this?
I wrote a couple before this that I think would have needed more editing and more work to get to the point where I would have wanted to try to make them.
Right.
But the first one was a high fantasy, and the second one was a sci-fi, kind of like an X-Files-ish sci-fi. Mm-hmm. And those are really just kind of like learning the ropes with writing a script and learning the beats and all of that. And I think those were really good learning experiences. But yeah, and then after that sci-fi, then I went on to write No Spell.
So what is it about X-Files that you like?
I've been a big X-Files fan too.
Yeah, pick up on it. I'm listening to those key words.
I think Mulder and Scully as a team just had such a good dynamic. I loved watching them together. And then all of the creepiness and the mystery that surrounded it always. It was great. I was a big fan.
I think I think when the soundtrack, the music.
Yes.
It's just, I was talking to George about it, because Nandor doesn't have that, or Andor doesn't have that. The new Star Wars series on Disney. The Mandalorian had it, right? Lord of the Rings has it. Game of Thrones have it. They have that soundtrack that draws you in. and you're glued to it, and Andor doesn't have it, and it's just like, I was like, did they, like, was the budget different? You know what I mean? But it makes it different. It's because it think every, like, the lighting in X-Files was perfect.
Yeah.
The tempo was perfect. The chemistry they had was amazing.
Mhm.
You know, I think they could have done 1,000 more episodes. I mean, it was just,
Yeah.
it was that kind of show.
Mhm.
And so I'm seeing a theme here. So does I looked at it. It's a noir urban fantasy comic about magic user. So you chose to go with fantasy
Yeah.
and magic rather than science,
Mhm.
right? So why that route? Because you're a big sci-fi buff.
Yeah. I like both. I like fantasy a lot too, and I like sci-fi. I think what I like about magic specifically, and with urban fantasy specifically, I like high fantasy too, but with urban fantasy, the thing that I think I like about that is kind of the idea that there could be someone living in our real world, just going about their life with their job or whatever, but they could have magic and they could have access to this amazing thing. And I always thought that was cool. And I was talking recently about this. I feel like there's, like, with urban fantasy and sci-fi, it feels kind of similar to me.
Right.
Like Star Trek, the science in Star Trek and the stories that you can develop as a result of this super advanced science. It feels like magic. It feels similar to an urban fantasy story in some ways. And so, like, for me, just as far as what I like and what informs what I'm writing, it's kind of both. And I feel like they have some similarities.
Right. So I see the male character, the female character. Are they partners or are they opposing sides? I'm just looking at the image that you have on your thumbnail on the Kickstarter right there. So talk about, let's first give us give us the premise of the story before we go into the characters themselves. So what can people expect from this?
So the main character, her name is Rosette, and she's a magic user. They're called conjurers. And she she kind of her whole life she's been made to feel like her magic is wrong, and it makes her dangerous. And her parents kind of hand her off to this guild of magic users when she's a kid who can help her learn to use her magic. So she has all of these feelings of kind of rejection. And as a teenager, she comes to New York and kind of tries to make her way there, and ultimately ends up using her magic to be basically a fixer for the mob. And this is a little bit of a spoiler, but not too much. It happens in the first issue. So she dies, and she makes a deal with the devil for a second chance of life. But as things kind of go along, she starts to question whether she can actually follow through with it. And so that's the main character, Rosette. And the guy in that image is, his name is Bash. He's the police chief. So they start off opposing. That kind of evolves over later issues.
They look like that they're going to fall for each other. I'm just reading between the lines. But I don't. When I started the show and I read that making the deal with the devil, I was like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
Do that? The devil doesn't play fair. Nothing good can happen from that. So that's fantasy. Fantasy. That's fascinating. I love that whole. I love the backstory of what you're doing with her. What's his backstory? What's he all about besides just his mission?
Yeah, so his backstory is a lot of the cops who work for him are corrupt cops and kind of getting paid off by the mob. And there are these two opposing groups who are both kind of vying for control of the cops. And his whole backstory is that he's trying to manage that.
Right. That's fascinating that you added the mob twist to it too. Yeah, so it's like, and then the enforcer is a magician that can conjure up magic. So I think those elements are fun and unique and fresh.
Oh.
It sounds fascinating. So how many pages is this? Your number one?
Number one is 21 pages.
21 pages. And now how did you find your illustrator?
I looked around. I looked on DeviantArt. I found her through DeviantArt, but I looked around DeviantArt and ArtStation and Instagram and just messaged a bunch of people. And she sent me some samples. She did a couple sample pages first. I'm Holly is her name, and she's super talented. And she sent me a couple sample pages, and they just really, she captured that noir tone, I think, really well. And it's worked out really well. It's been great working with her. She's a lot of fun to work with and super talented.
Does she do the coloring as well?
She does, yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. I mean, I love the attitude, that look that she gave the character on that thumbnail.
Yeah.
She's sassy. You could tell that she's not playing games, and she's just like, if you just look at her wrong, she's gonna whip you with that ball that she has in her hand. And I mean, she just captured the emotion on just that image, and it's a great thumbnail for your campaign. It really is.
Thanks.
It says a lot without saying much. And so, talk to me about the font usage and the idea behind the title.
Yeah, so the title, the original title was A Warm and Violent Dusk, which I still like, but not necessarily for this. I think it kind of is poetic, but isn't super descriptive of the story. So I kind of went around in my head with some different things and landed on this. I feel like it's kind of has that noir, sort of like old noir movie kind of feel to it.
Right.
And the font, the lettering, I actually did the lettering for the cover, for both covers, that one and the variant, at which I had a lot of fun doing those too. The variant, the lettering for that one, that whole cover is an homage to the movie poster for The Big Sleep, which our main character is really kind of personally influenced by old noir movies. And that's kind of why she dresses the way she does and sort of speaks the way she does. And The Big Sleep is her favorite. And so we did kind of an homage to that for the variant, which was super fun. Elena Aminetti did that artwork. And then for the standard cover, I wanted to do something that looked like I was looking at like old Casablanca, like posters and things, and wanted to kind of capture something like that.
Oh, that's fine. I remember seeing Casablanca, 7th grade. We were in the library in my junior high school, and they played it for everybody. I loved it. I loved it. And we saw. I mean, it's like every month we went to the library to watch movies, and we saw Gone with the Wind there. That's fascinating. So I see a theme here: girl power.
Yeah.
Was that intentional, or was it just happened?
It was intentional, but I also feel like it's just kind of what comes naturally to me as a writer. Not that I wouldn't write stories with male protagonists. I definitely would, but I feel like it's kind of my go-to is to have a female lead or female cast that are interesting and kind of diverse from one another and compelling.
Even the team that you're working with.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I'm using my detective hat. It's not that obvious, but I think it's pretty great. So your campaign launches when?
Tuesday, October 4th.
October 4th. Any specific reason that day, or was it?
It was kind of what worked out well for us, just as far as when we're expecting to get the comic done. Aimee is still working on some of the pages. She's got all the pencils done, and she's got a handful of the coloring done for a handful of the pages, and she's working on the inks. So we're planning to be done with that in December. I kind of thought about, well, do I want to wait until it's all done to do the campaign, which I might do in the future, but I didn't want to have to wait until like next year, January or something. But then wanted to make sure we got it done before the holidays. So October seemed like the best time.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And any specific time that day that you're launching it?
I think probably around 8 a.m.
Okay. Awesome.
Eastern.
That's awesome. So what are some of the perks that people that are you done with it? Have you finished up with what?
Yeah. I think for me, the most exciting perk is Elena's variant cover. But we've also got some other comics from other creators. They're all in the urban fantasy kind of world. And then I'm doing some offering some things like one-on-one sessions with writers or anyone really, but especially writers, and interviews in my Substack. What else do we have? Oh, an ash can, a writer's ash can, so you can get a little snippet of a story that I'm working on now, plus some of the earlier stuff that I was working on with earlier incarnations of No Spell. We've got an artist's ash can, which will include a bunch of Aime's thumbnails and pencils and inks and things. Some of her character sketches. I think she's including some little character sketches. Yeah, those are probably, I'm doing a digital wallpaper thing. So mobile and desktop digital wallpapers from the comic. Yeah, lots of stuff.
What's the long game for this series, for this title?
It's a 6-issue series. So hopefully after this one, we'll move on to issue 2.
That's awesome.
I'm going to have it, the printed copies, of course, will be up on Kickstarter, and I'm probably going to make them available, trying to figure out the best way after the campaign to make the printed copies available. But it'll be going up digitally too on Webtoon and probably on Comixology.
Awesome. That's awesome. And so when this project is finished, do you have anything else in the works, in the pipeline?
Yeah, I have another one that I'm working on the scripts for now. I'm in the editing stages of it. It's still pretty early on, but it's called Scorned April, and it's kind of a semi-horror, I guess. I guess urban fantasy / horror, about an urban legend that kind of revolves around the death of these 2 college students, and a current college student who always has kind of thought that there's something suspicious about the story and is trying to uncover the real truth behind it.
Oh, that's awesome. So when do you plan on getting that off?
Yeah, so that I'm still working on the script for that. As soon as I get to the point where I think it's done, then I'm probably going to start trying to find an artist for that one too.
Okay, so do you have I don't know if you mentioned this, do you have an early bird special for your campaign, or?
Oh, I do. Yeah, they are it's a couple of comics, Diary of Night and But I'm a Cat Person. So they're both kind of in the urban fantasy realm. And I'm a Cat Person. It'll be issues 1 through 4. So it's 5 separate issues of comics for the early bird special. And then I'm doing a thing where the first 5 people who pledge at the $10 level will get the perks of the $25.
Oh, look at that. That's awesome.
Oh, thanks.
That is pretty cool. That is pretty cool. So what does your average day look like?
Yeah. So the first thing that I usually do in the morning is just kind of get my social media stuff up, make sure that that's done. And I'm also doing some freelance writing, some blogging for different places. That's kind of the next thing that I usually move on to. And that takes a chunk of the day. And then after that, I kind of am able to move on to any additional like writing or whether it's lettering my comics, things like that. I'll do toward the end of the day.
Awesome. So we talked about your long game for your project. What's the long game for your career? Where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
I would love to be getting my comics published. And I'm definitely gonna continue with self-publishing, but I'd love to be getting them published eventually. That's the dream.
Awesome. And what do you see? What do you anticipate for your film project?
We have the whole season written. We'd love to get the full season made. Yeah, it was a lot of fun making the first episode, and it's really been received well at the festivals it's been at, which is exciting to see. So if we could get the rest of that season. And we have beyond season 1. We have like 3 seasons planned out in our heads. So if it really took off and we could do even more than that, that would be amazing. But if we could get the first handful of episodes or the first season ideally made, that would be great.
Right. Now, have you guys started pitching?
We pitched around to some little studios. We didn't, no one picked it up, but we have thought maybe give that a second round after seeing how it's been doing at these film festivals, maybe give that another try at some point.
Outstanding. So we've come to the point where I'm going to give you the screen, and I want you to deliver your elevator pitch and tell everybody why they need to sign up and why they need to be there on the 4th of October when you go live, and then how they can find you on social media. So go for it.
So No Spell Lasts Forever #1 goes live on Tuesday, October 4th. It's a noir urban fantasy with a female protagonist and a strong supporting cast of other compelling women about a magic user who meets an early death and makes a deal with the devil for a second chance at life. You can find me on Instagram at Sarah Cooke Writer and at No Spell Comic, and Twitter at Sarah Cooke Write. And the shortened URL for the campaign is tiny.cc/nospell. Yeah.
Outstanding. This was fascinating. I'm sorry George couldn't be with us tonight. George recently got promoted, so because of that, his demand on his time has just been overwhelming, and he's been working a lot of crazy hours. But we loved having you on. You're always welcome back. You're part of the Craze family. So all you have to do is and you don't even have to ask. You have the link. Use it anytime. And congratulations on the film. Congratulations on the launch of your campaign, and much success to you and anything you do.
Oh, thanks. You too.
You got it. Thank you again for being on the show.
Oh, thank you.
All right, so that was Sarah Cooke. The link is in the chat, guys. Go over, sign up. And if you can't back it, recommend it to somebody. It is fascinating. It's magic. It's fantasy. I mean, just look at the thumbnail. I mean, I'm telling you right now, if the mood in the book is as dramatic as that one image, you got me. So go ahead, give it a shot. Check it out. That was Sarah Cooke. Links in the chat, links in the summary. Go ahead and visit it. And with that said, if you haven't subscribed yet to Cast the Craze podcast, will you do? When we grow, you grow. Do you understand that? When we grow, we get more eyes on the independent community. They get to reach a bigger, broader audience to promote their creative endeavor. And that's why we do it. We've been doing this since 2005. 2005. Yeah, I know we don't have the subs. Yeah, I know we don't have the notoriety. But man, we have grit and we have the craze. And if you're part of the craze, then you're part of the family. And we appreciate every single one of you for joining us every single day. Whether you're listening to us on Spotify or iHeartRadio, or you're watching us on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, we appreciate you for taking the time to do so. And I appreciate every single one of you out there. And don't forget, if you pledge to my campaign, there's nail in my toilet right now, I will throw in a bookmark in your reward. If it's a digital pledge, you'll get a digital copy. If it's a physical, you'll get it in the basket of duty. Is a brand new bookmark too. It's awesome. I'm like, I want one for myself. It is awesome. So with that said, don't forget, we're going to be back at 8:00 with Sean Fry. He's going to be talking about Cody Valiant, the legendary outlaw hero, which is on Indiegogo right now. So at 8:00, join us. George should be back by then, and it'll be fun. And then don't forget, tomorrow morning, join us on the Morning Brew with the Crazy Crew. We got a lot to talk about. We're talking about mangaka. We're talking about manga artists. The grind. These guys are hustlers. I thought I was a hustler. No, these guys hustle. With that said, I'm your host with the most, the crazy man, Vera. You guys have a fantastic night. I'm out. It's just easy. It does not. Crazy. No, I was talking about my friend Acquise. I met him. Say my name, right? This is what you were thinking? Oh,
are listening
how he described me? He said, "I'm the."
You're
What?
listening to Catch the Craze. You're listening to Catch the Craze. You're listening to Catch the Craze. Listening to Catch the Craze. You are listening to Catch the Craze on Catch the Craze. You're listening to Catch the Craze.
Candy girl.